Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. There seems to be some headway in the crisis rocking the Democratic Republic of Congo, as Angola, who has been playing the mediator role, says the country and the rival M23 rebels will be holding direct talks for peace. A statement from Angolan President João Lourenço's office says the peace negotiations will begin in the Angolan capital, Luanda. However, it's unclear when this would be. Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi had previously refused to engage directly with the M23 rebels, and Angola has acted as a mediator in the conflicts in eastern Congo, which escalated in late January. There have been several plans for peace talks hosted by Angola, but they excluded M23 and focused on their Rwandan backers. However, these talks were cancelled. A lightning advance by the Rwanda-backed rebels has seen them take control of the strategic eastern Congo city of Goma and also Bukavu, seizing the region's second biggest city last month. In the meantime, Southern African leaders have announced they will pull their troops out of Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where they have been helping the government fight the rebel forces. The decision to start a phased withdrawal was made during a virtual summit of the 16-member Southern African Development Community, SADC, on Thursday. The troops were sent 2 years ago to support the Congolese army fight against the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels, but at least 19 soldiers from South Africa, Malawi and Tanzania were killed when the M23 captured the key city of Goma back in January. The SADC leaders say that even though the troops will be pulled out of the DRC, the bloc will continue to support interventions aimed at bringing lasting peace. The M23 has continued to gain ground in eastern DRC and last month seized the region's second biggest city, Bukavu. In South Africa, the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget has drawn a backlash from various quarters, including key partners in the coalition government, rejecting his proposals for a second time. Analysts say South Africa has entered uncharted waters following deep divisions in the coalition government over the national budget that has finally been tabled after a month-long delay. The African National Congress, ANC, had to form a government of national unity with 9 other parties after it lost its parliamentary majority in elections last year. And without the support of its biggest coalition partner, that's the Democratic Alliance, DA, it will fail to pass the budget unless there's a rethink of the policies or gets the backing of the biggest opposition parties. Mr. Godongwana was forced to postpone his budget presentation last month after fears resistance to his plan to raise value-added tax, which would have seen the prices of goods go up at a time when the citizens are hard hit by the cost of living crisis. Well, industry leaders, experts and key stakeholders from across the trade ecosystem are convening in Cape Town, South Africa for the Africa Trade Conference. Organizers say the gathering aims to bring together influential voices to shape the future of trade on the continent, driving innovation, sustainability, strategic partnerships and inclusive growth. This year's conference is themed Empowering Africa Through Trade, Innovation and Sustainable Growth. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, has more.
The conversation here focuses on innovative trade solutions, sustainable practices, and strategies to expand markets. Stakeholders across Africa's trade ecosystem acknowledge the numerous challenges facing intra-African trade, including inadequate trade policies, logistical bottlenecks, and protectionism, among others. During the conference, Mark Obion, Councillor for Economic Research and statistics at the World Trade Organization shared his insights on unlocking Africa's trade potential in the global market. As discussions around the Africa Continental Free Trade Area gain momentum, the key question remains: how crucial are partnerships and collaboration in unlocking Africa's trade potential to ensure inclusive growth that benefits all sectors of society?
I think it's at the heart of what we are talking about, because for trade to get to the level we are looking at, there's regulation involved. And therefore, for you to make that happen, you need to partner government, you need to partner DFIs, you need to partner logistics company, so all of the value chain, that relates to trade. So very, very, and that's why if you look at this conference today, we brought people who do logistics, private sector, DFI, so that we can have a conversation as to how, we can partner.
As private sector, what type of policy initiatives do you expect from government in making sure that we indeed unlock trade in the continent?
All right, so if you look at the challenges that we face with trade in Africa, it's a couple of things. The first is around the lack of productive capacity in Africa. So what we do today is that we take cocoa, we take cobalt, we send them abroad and we get refined goods. We don't have productive capacity. How do we create an environment and financing to be able to actually take cocoa and make chocolate in Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire?
The executive head of strategy and investment, Access Bank South Africa, Yinka Yomi Tokosi, emphasized that Africa must drive discussions on policies and initiatives that empower women and youth in Africa's trade sector.
Okay, so that's a very good question. So obviously, as you know, Africa is a population of about 1.5 billion people. However, we only represent 3% of global trade. So that means that there's a lot of opportunity for us to unlock. And a significant population of the continent is actually young people. So ideally for us to grow that is how do we ensure that we empower young people, and trade is a way.
As stakeholders continue these critical discussions, the challenge remains in translating dialogues into action, ensuring that trade growth is inclusive, resilient, and benefits all Africans. From Cape Town, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Ghana's President John Mahama recently got back from a tour of the Sahel countries of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso. The visit is part of the Ghanaian leaders' efforts to form a dialogue with the nations after the three left the regional bloc ECOWAS. It's also part of a broader diplomatic initiative to strengthen Ghana's relations with its ECOWAS neighbors and address regional security concerns, particularly regarding the recently formed Alliance of Sahel states. President Mahama has been leading negotiations to reintegrate Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso into ECOWAS. The three Sahel countries announced their departure from ECOWAS in January 2025, citing dissatisfaction with the bloc's approach to governance and security issues. Well, joining us now for more on this is Ghanaian political analyst Nana Yomeno. He joins us from Accra, the capital of Ghana. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to begin by asking why this trip was necessary for President Mahama to make to these three countries just this past weekend.
Okay, so thank you. Let me extend this to our senior brothers, the Nigerian people. Let me give you a goodwill messages. I mean, this is actually what His Excellency, the President, has said, that it is the good neighbor tour or good neighborliness tour, which sits with our country's foreign policy, dating as far back as 1959, when our first president, His Excellency Kwame Nkrumah, had said that our foreign policy is going to be neutral, and that is we are not going to look left and we are not going to look right, and we are going to look forward. And we are looking forward because everyone is going to be our friend. We are a friend of all and enemies of none. And so I think this philosophy underpins the our neighbors, that is Burkina Faso, Niger, and
what sort of relationship now and partnership is the president trying to court with these countries, and how important are the countries to Ghana?
Can you?
I'm asking, what sort of relationship Ghana is looking to, and partnership is Ghana trying to court with these countries, and how important it is to the country.
Please, can I be heard?
Yes.
Fantastic. Burkina Faso are trade partners, Mali and also Niger. We are trade partners, especially when it comes to Burkina Faso. We are trade partners in Syria, and we are also trade partners when it comes to energy transfer, that is electricity. And also in recent times, the good people of Burkina have purchased the tanks in Tema at the moment, where they are able to store petroleum products. And so we are partners in trade. We are also partners when it comes to security, because in Ghana we have an adage that when you see that your friend's house is on fire, you don't say that there is a fire in my friend's house, but you say there is fire in our house, because maybe the fire may extend to your house. And so when there's fire in your neighbor's house, you help your friend to quench it. And those are some of the traditional philosophies that guide relationships. You can talk about some of the insurgents that is in Burkina Faso, Niger, and also Mali. And as neighbors, maybe from those regions, they might be coming to our regions. And President Mahama had already shown some goodwill, even from his first days in office. Among some of the first appointments that he did has to do with the envoy to the Sahel, the alliance of the Sahel states, so that we can properly have a good relationship with these our neighbors, and of our interest in trade, in our interest in security issues, and also at least to extend some courtesies to our neighbors.
All right then, thank you so much. Nana Maino, Ghanaian political analyst. Thank you for your time on the program. The celebration of women in this month continues. However, the United Nations says the rights of women are under siege. At the opening of the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres told delegates that the poison of patriarchy is back, and it's back with a vengeance. Marking the 30th anniversary of the landmark Beijing Declaration, the General Assembly President called for a decisive action, urging nations to meet the 2030 deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals. UN Women Executive Director Sima Bahous, on the other hand, echoed the urgency for action, declaring that 2025 must be a turning point in the fight for women's rights. The session was chaired by Saudi Arabia and convened world leaders and advocates to assess progress and persistent challenges in gender equality.
We gather here today not only as leaders and advocates, but as custodians of a vision, one that in 1995 set forth the most ambitious and transformative agenda for gender equality and the rights and empowerment of all women and girls. Beijing was a watershed moment, a bold and unequivocal commitment by the global community to ensure women's and girls' full and equal participation in all aspects of life.
Women's rights are under siege. The poison of patriarchy is back, and is back with a vengeance, slamming the brakes on action, tearing up progress, and mutating into new and dangerous forms. Now is the time for the world to accelerate progress and deliver on the promise of Beijing.
As the 2030 deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals nears, we must be resolute in delivering on the promise of Beijing. To end poverty and enhance economic development, we must unleash women's full potential, and we are at a defining moment. I believe it is possible to achieve gender equality in our lifetime if we seize this opportunity.
2025 must be a turning point, a moment in the history of this long struggle where we embrace bold, urgent, and transformative action, where we show our resolve to push forward for rights, for equality, and for empowerment for all women and girls.
Gender equality.
The African Union's Peace and Security Council, PSC, has rejected Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, RSF's declaration of a parallel government, warning it threatens Sudan's unity. Following its March 11 meeting in Addis Ababa, the PSC urged AU members and the international community not to recognize or support any such entity. This comes after the RSF and 18 allied movements announced the Peace and Unity government in Nairobi, drawing scrutiny. The AU reaffirmed its commitment to Sudan's sovereignty and urged peaceful negotiations as the ongoing conflict has killed thousands of people and displaced millions since April 2023. In the meantime, South Sudan's government has denied reports that Uganda had deployed its special forces to the capital, Juba. Earlier this week, Uganda's military chief, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, said the soldiers had gone to the neighboring country to help South Sudanese President Salva Kiir secure the city of Juba. Uganda's army spokesperson, Felix Kulayigye, also confirms the deployment. However, South Sudan's information minister, Michael Makue, has said Ugandan troops are not in Juba. This is coming amid escalating tensions between President Kiir and his deputy, Riek Machar, raising fears that their fragile peace deal could collapse and a conflict could resume. In Upper Nile, South Sudan, prisoners are suffering because of overcrowding, unhygienic living conditions, rampant disease, and a lack of food. Alleged offenders are detained for years without the prospect of a trial due to a lack of judges and court facilities. Well, that seems to be changing now as the National Judiciary, in collaboration with the UN mission in South Sudan, has deployed a mobile court to rank in the northern Upper Nile, and it's to reduce the backlog of cases. From 29th January until the 1st of March this year, the court delivered 54 verdicts, resulting in 48 convictions and 23 acquittals. In addition, 42 detainees were released from prison. Given the success of the court in delivering justice in places where it has been absent, freeing wrongfully detained individuals and easing prison congestion, the mission in South Sudan is now exploring opportunities to deploy these hearings to other locations across the country.
Moving forward, we will also be working with the Judiciary and the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs to look at the possibility of deploying a mobile court to Maban and potentially also Malakal in the future. However, the Judiciary is also looking to hopefully promote judges going forward, or deploy another permanent High Court judge to Upper Nile State, which will make this a more sustainable process.
We hope that the government will prepare an implementation mechanism to ensure that the recommendations of the Judicial Reform Committee are implemented in a graduated manner, subject, of course, to availability of funds and availability of personnel. But this will lead to a comprehensive development and extension of justice system in this country, which all political parties and all parts of society agree is the utmost necessity of this country.
Nigeria and the United Kingdom have officially launched the Creative Industries Technical Working Group, a pivotal development in the Nigeria-UK Enhanced Trade and Investment Partnership. According to a statement released, the partnership aims to deepen bilateral ties and create a robust framework for growth within the creative sectors of both nations. The launch also represents a milestone in the UK-Nigeria relationship designed to boost innovation, cross-border creative collaborations, and also drive sustainable economic growth and development. Both events provide a dynamic platform to explore new opportunities and form commercial alliances within key creative subsectors such as film and TV, music, fashion and design, architecture, advertising, and gaming. The federal government of Nigeria says it is making efforts to create an enabling environment for hydrocarbon investments to bridge energy poverty, adding that the continent is not a net contributor to global emission. This was during the session at the 2025 Sarah Week by S&P Global, currently holding in Houston, Texas. The session, with the theme Policy and People, Pathways to a Just Transition, features speakers including the CEO of Tinker Energy Association, Scott Tinker, and the DG Center for Science and Environment, Sunita Narain. Nigeria and other African and middle-income countries are seeking a just energy transition amidst an intense push for net zero emissions.
The narrative is getting more knocks, interrogations, and essentially developing economies and experts are debating the climate change, energy transition, adaptability, and more. Here in the energy capital of the world, Houston, Texas, thought leaders are making representation at the Sarah Week. Nigeria is here at one of the over 500 energy sessions to present its perspective on policy and people, pathways to a just transition. The climate change semblance of a hypodermic needle solution to global energy needs appears to be weakening. For instance, could decarbonization policies inadvertently hinder progress in energy-poor developing countries?
A major part of the electricity generation. And we have major challenges. We have the challenge of land availability. Solar requires grid-based large-scale solar requires large amount of land. Now, India looks like a vast country, but it is the most inhabited country in the world. The biggest question that comes is, so I give up my land and I get this solar energy project there, and it's going to feed into the grid, but I'm still living in darkness. So that then becomes again part of the question about how do you make sure that that energy system, it's not about whether it's renewable or thermal, it's about the energy system. How does it deliver so that it can get energy into the hands of people? And when I say there is poverty, there is real poverty when it comes to buying energy, particularly when it comes to buying energy that women in the house need to cook their food. And that's a big issue that we need to address.
Mitigate and adapt, unlocking financing for a purpose-centered transition to prosperity before transition to clean energy. Nigeria's Olufunhai has a challenge for the global community.
A lot of the savings and the improvements that you need to have will come from developed economies, and they'll need to not only diversify their energy sources, but also invest heavily in carbon removal technologies and emission reduction technologies as well. That's where a lot of the gains will happen. And that's how you marry both. You make sure that the developing economies and emerging and developing economies can use all the resources that they have to power prosperity, and that prosperity allows them to allows the Africans and all these developing economies to adapt to climate change and afford adaptability solutions. But in the developed world, you need more and more investment to scale in emission reduction technologies.
She's not alone. There are more voices interrogating the climate change construct.
If I aggregate it is, you want to have 1.5 degree warming and be poor, or 2 degrees of warming and be wealthy. In other words, if we have to put hundreds of trillions of dollars into mitigating, and we keep it at 1.5, what if we put 10 trillion into investing? And it's 2 degrees, not good. I'm not advocating for that, but now tens of trillions of dollars into investing, and they can become wealthy and do the same kind of adaptive things that we are doing.
Right.
It's not an either or, mitigate and adapt, but I think it is either or to me with extreme poverty and wealth. We can't keep 7 billion people pinned down here. It's just wrong.
Portfolios matters. You can't force a single solution or binary solutions on anyone. And more importantly, right there at the table, everyone should be heard. That is the growing consensus here. From Houston, Texas, Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.